Okay, good morning. Section 2 in our Rome unit is social structure. What do you need to know in this section? When we're done, you should be able to identify the social classes of Rome and their characteristics. You'll be able to explain the Roman values of dignitas and odium and how that affects the way the Romans operate. You should also be able to explain the patronage system in Rome. We'll get into that. It ties things together. So we have a social pyramid. We've looked at these before. We've got it for this one here too. There are 5-level social pyramid for the Romans. First, we have the patricians. They're at the top. They're the elites, less than 5% of the population. However, they are the ones that are wealthy landowners. They started as farmers. Long time ago, from the kingdom into the early republic, they become the movers and the shakers with the wealth. They did not work. Work was considered crude, not something they would do. They did public service for free. They'd volunteer. They invested in working class businesses, and essentially they ran the republic. Equites or knights. Originally, they were all patricians, and they served as cavalry. They were required to have enough money to bring a certain number of horses in, and that's how it started. As the civilization grew and developed, however, wealthy individuals who were citizens that made their fortune through other means, often in shipping and mining, and had a net value of enough wealth, could become an equite, and they would become the upper tier of society as well. Plebeians. This is the majority of the remainder of the Romans. They're farmers, they're merchants, and day laborers. They're middle class and the working poor. We have freedmen. They're foreigners that come to live and work in Rome, and they're also freed slaves. They're not citizens, although they could become citizens under certain circumstances. They're considered lower on the social scale, but usually, particularly the freed slaves, had higher incomes and had a higher standard of living because they had skills and they were craftsmen. And then finally, at the very bottom, and this is maybe 1/3 of the people in Rome at its height, were slaves. They were captured by the Roman military in their campaigns, and they did much of the labor in Rome. They had no rights, but they could be freed by an owner and become a freedman. Roman values. In order to get the Romans, you've got to understand their values. And really, the motivations that explain the development of Rome from the kingdom to the republic to the empire are really tied into 2 values that help you understand how it works. Okay. Question time. Can you think of anyone in our modern pop culture that gets a lot of press, finds a way into the Twitterverse or other social media? They're very great at self-promotion. Anybody come to mind? How about these guys? These ladies? Anybody thinking of these? At various times, I'll get leading politicians. I'll let you go ahead and fill in whichever name. But these guys, these ladies, are very good at keeping themselves in the news. Well, that goes back to Rome as well. Dignitas. It's a value of personal prestige and accomplishment. Kind of how much of a big shot are you? It's a net sum game of 0. So for you to gain dignitas, somebody else has to lose it. So it's about being publicly seen to be a great leader or a great person. And there's a lot of ways to get it. You can go ahead and get it through public works. You can do it by commissioning art. You can do that through victory as a Roman leader in their army. We'll deal with the army in another lecture. But dignitas was one of the most important things. It kind of ties to dignity, but it goes beyond that. It's about the popularity and being the big wheel. Once you get that, you'll understand a little bit about the Roman decision processes. What it ends up doing is putting a competition among the elites to gain influence. And that's really what this is about. You could find a lot of this in Washington with both parties. This is not a political statement, other than that's true in Washington as well. Second value that goes hand in hand with dignitas is the value of otium. And that's a Roman concept of leisure, entertainment, and relaxation. And those are all great pursuits, but when you combine it with dignitas and it's about showing off, it can lead to some outrageous parties, dinners, trying to impress others. Roman patronage system. The society in Rome was bound together in a system known as the patronage system. The patron was a Roman patrician. They were elites. They'd serve as the protector, a sponsor, a benefactor of a lower plebeian or freedman. Now, remember we said that Roman patricians did not work, and they did give public service for free. But for every patron, you needed clients, and those are the people that you would support. You'd invest in their businesses. As a protector, you might be able to get them out of legal scrapes. They would owe you then. This is not unlike The Godfather and the organized crime. A leading patron, you had to step in line. There were certain things that were expected in exchange for those benefits. They would give money away frequently. This was a way to go ahead and increase their dignitas and to go ahead and promote themselves. For every patron, we have the client. And these are plebeians and freedmen who are sponsored by the patrician, but they get their support, politics, public service. If the patron goes to give a speech in the forum, the clients are expected to be there to applaud anything they have to say. Okay? Whether they were running for election, they'd be the campaign workers. It was, again, a dignitas game that all ties this together. Now, what about work in the Roman patronage system? Again, we said that patricians don't work. Commerce was considered crude. There's only one occupation that had dignity, and that was farming. Now, think back to our session about the land on the Italian peninsula. There's a lot more farmland here, and Rome's roots are in farming. But patricians really didn't farm. They would own plantations, and then slaves would work the land. They'd have a great estate out in the country, and they would have inside the city of Rome, they may have a house, okay? But they did not do the work. They'd also make money from investing in their clients' businesses and taking a percentage. So in summary, what do you need to know here? They're built on a class system with elite patricians at the top, the working class and poor plebeians, freedmen, and large amounts of slave labor. They were motivated by dignitas and odium. And when we get into some of the day-to-day life, you'll see some of those excesses. The classes are held together through a system of patronage where the working class and the poor rely on the patrons and the patricians at the top, and vice versa.